Another day, another act of corruption by the Trump administration, as Trump has now pardoned Changpeng Zhao, the founder of Binance, who pled guilty to money laundering, convicted of serious crimes, pled guilty to them, and Trump has now pardoned him because this guy helped prop up Trump's own cryptocurrency over the last several months. This is all according to new reporting from the Wall Street Journal. He has been trying to get a pardon from Trump for some time now, and Trump just gave it to him. There are literally no ethics going on in the White House. That is all out the window. Trump's crypto venture has generated about $4.5 billion since the 2024 election, and much of this is due to Zhao's help. This is not justice. This is political favor. This is corruption on steroids, plus creatine, plus some other supplements we don't even know about. Let me know what you think about this. Comment, like, share, spread the word, follow, subscribe, and I'll see you back here for the 411.
It's Thursday, October 23rd, 2025, just before 4 p.m. East Coast time, and as I am making this video right now, President Donald Trump is sitting in the White House, talking to the press, and telling them how he is pulling back on sending troops and ICE and other individuals into San Francisco. Which you might say to yourself, why? Here's why. Because the tech bros called him up direct line to the White House or his cell phone or whatever, and they said, please do not send these people to our city. That is the power of boycott. That is the power of the People's Sick Day. That is the power of the big, beautiful boycott and blackout the system and mass blackout and all of the others that we are now pushing together into the dates starting November 25th and ending December 2nd. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go check out the video on my page, many other pages, probably in your FYP as well. When we take the money out of their pockets, they feel the pressure. And when they feel the pressure, they call Daddy Don, and they tell him how it's going to be because he relies on that money too. I am so grateful for this little bit of hope core today, if you will, because it fits so well with what we are trying to explain to the American people and honestly beyond, because people are going to participate from around the world when talking about boycotting American super corporations. So I just wanted to put that out there, let you know. This is the power of things like boycott, and make sure you're engaged for the mass blackout November 25th to December 2nd.
Pam Bondi just said in this roundtable press conference event that's still going on as we speak, that what we're seeing in Chicago and Portland and Los Angeles, this is not a pilot program. And I quote, "This is permanent. We are here to stay. This is permanent. We're here to stay." Now, I might be able to understand the pilot program comment. I understand what she's saying when she says this is not a pilot program, okay? This is not just an isolated thing that they're doing in LA and Portland and Chicago. They're trying to do it in every blue city, and then they're going to try and do it in every city in the country, not just the ones in blue states. But the other stuff doesn't make sense. Why the fuck would you say, this is permanent, we're here to stay? You're here to stay. Where are you going? Where are you going unless your guy is not elected again in 2028, right? Unless you don't plan on going anywhere in 2028. And this is permanent? This is permanent means we are a police state, and you all better get used to it. What you see in Chicago, that's not going away after we get rid of crime. That's permanent. We are there to stay. You're going to see men in military uniforms on your streets till the day y'all all better get used to it, or you're going to be labeled a terrorist or the enemy within.
Well, the Democrats were right again. Do you guys remember when we told these Trump supporters that if Trump put tariffs on everything, that American companies would jack their prices up? Well, that's exactly what happened with American beef. As soon as Trump put in the tariffs, American cattle farmers raised their prices 10 to 15%. And when we told Trump supporters that this is precisely what would happen, they said, well, that's okay. I'm okay with paying higher prices at the store, even though Trump's entire campaign promise was to lower prices. But I'm okay with paying higher prices as long as we're buying American, because that's the patriotic thing to do. Well, I guess it got a little bit too patriotic in here, huh? Because now Trump is importing beef from Argentina to undercut the prices of American farmers. Isn't it amazing how Trump has completely fucked over American farmers at every turn? And yet he has the audacity to sit in the White House and say, prices are way down. I saved the farmers. And that's because he's an idiot. But Trump supporters, listen up. Next time, listen to the smart people. You know, the people who don't like Trump, even he knows that. The smart people. Listen to us and you could have saved yourself some trouble. Anyway, Group 7, rest assured that we are always correct about everything. So I hope you guys have a classy Thursday, and I'll check in with you later. Love you guys.
Get ready for delayed and canceled flights. That's according to Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, who gave an interview this morning saying that while air traffic controllers have continued to show up at work, many of them 6-hour days due to an ongoing shortage of about 3,800 controllers in the FAA, that he couldn't guarantee that that would continue. As the shutdown lingers on, as controllers are now receiving that they're not going to get another paycheck, and Congress hasn't made a carve-out for them, and the administration hasn't made a carve-out for them, well, he's saying controllers are going to have to take second jobs, especially at a lot of smaller facilities where they don't make a lot of money, just so that they can pay their bills. And when that happens, they might not show up to work. Now, if you remember 2018, 2019, it's widely regarded that about 30 controllers along the East Coast calling out across multiple air traffic control facilities all on the same day caused billions of dollars in lost revenue for corporations and for cities, and that ended a 35-day long shutdown. So this was essentially Sean Duffy telling politicians, hey, we need to figure out what to do about air traffic controllers, or we're going to lose billions of dollars a day if they decide that they can't come to work because they have to feed their families, if they decide they can't come to work because they have to pay their bills by getting a second job. Now, Sean Duffy did hold the administration line of saying that this was the Democrats' problem to fix, even as Republicans control the House that's not negotiating with Democrats, and the Senate that's not negotiating with Democrats, and the White House that's refusing to negotiate with Democrats. So it's truly an all-politician problem at this point, and Republicans just need to take the lead and fix it before the country's losing billions of dollars a day, and then the Congress people are going to have upset constituents, and by constituents, I mean businesses and billionaires that put them in power.
I hope you guys know how interesting things are about to get. Many of us on the left have been warning Trump supporters that Donald Trump is a toxic narcissist, as is much of the administration, and everybody eventually gets burned, and you're going to get burned. And American cattle farmers right now, we are watching a full-blown narcissist attack against cattle farmers. So if you don't know what's going on, Trump has decided that because beef is so expensive because of his tariffs and his deportations, he's going to purchase beef from Argentina. And by flooding the market with more beef, bring the costs down for all of us. And the immediate response of the American cattle farmers, almost overwhelmingly, they probably voted for Donald Trump, are like, what? What are you doing? Why are you doing that? This is hurting us. And here's where it gets interesting. Trump responded exactly like a narcissist. He essentially said, you cattle farmers don't know how good you have it under me, which is gaslighting. And he said, you guys need to lower the price of your beef because you're basically the reason beef is so expensive. Classic narcissism, classic attack. It's classic. I can tell you right now, they are going through something. If anybody's been on the receiving end of that kind of narcissistic blow, it's traumatizing. But I got to tell you this, these Trump-supporting cattle farmers are not going to get any sympathy from other MAGA voters. See, this is also where, like if you're part of a church environment where the pastor is a narcissist and you get burned and you wake up and you start crying to the other parishioners that are still under the narcissist spell, they turn on you. They're not going to be there to back you. These other MAGA supporters, MAGA voters, are not going to support these cattle farmers when they start turning on Donald Trump. And that's going to be another type of trauma these farmers are going to experience. Now, I, on the left, can behave just like many Trump supporters have behaved to this date and say, too bad, farmers. You asked for it. I don't care. All I care about is the price of beef is going down. Yay, Donald Trump. That's all I care about. I could say that, but I'm not MAGA. This actually hurts me to see all this, having been on the receiving end of narcissistic abuse myself. This is just pay attention, you guys. This is going to be a big awakening for that part of America.
It's gone. He has succeeded in tearing down the entire East Wing and the colonnade that goes from the East Wing to the actual White House. Despite the fact that there was a public outcry, despite the fact that he had none of the permissions necessary to do it, he just went ahead and did it. And that is why we had a No Kings rally this past weekend, because he is acting like a king. Kings of old had no checks and balances. They just did whatever the fuck they wanted. And that's what Donald Trump is doing. The Republican Party could stop it like that, and yet they do not. Which begs the question, how many Republicans are in the Epstein files, right? And I want to say every single MAGA Republican is complicit in this, because they're the ones out there who, when this first started to happen, said, oh, he's just removing the facade of the East Wing. It's not like he's going to tear down the whole thing. And the next day, when it became apparent that he was tearing down the whole thing, they continued to gaslight everybody in the country by saying that that wasn't true. And now that it's all gone, they're saying, well, why weren't you mad when Obama did the same thing when he put in his basketball court? Obama put a basketball hoop and some lines on a tennis court. Not the same thing, even remotely. But MAGA Republicans are out there sharing this photo, saying it's a picture of Obama tearing down the White House to put in an indoor basketball court. Now, Google is free, my friends. This photo is actually from 1933 and the construction of the West Wing. Yet MAGA Republicans will believe anything. And it is their gullibility, which is why every MAGA Republican is complicit in this. And their willingness to spread disinformation is also why they are guilty. And I do not believe in waste. But when we get rid of that orange stain on our nation, I don't care what the cost is. I will set up a GoFundMe. We will tear down Donald Trump's ballroom and plant a rose garden and rebuild the East Wing. And any Democrat who runs on that platform in 2028 has my vote.
So I gotta say this. I don't give a fuck about the East Wing. Like, it's everywhere. Everywhere. Like, look what he did. Look what he did. That's like the lowest fucking rung on the ladder lately. Like, you expect him to be corrupt as fuck. You expect him to find ways to pay himself through his own DOJ, which he's trying to do, so he could pay for the ballroom, which is now up to $350 million, by the way. Everything's got to be gold. But I mean, the media, okay, yeah, he was corrupt as fuck. He fucked up a house. What about the homes that ICE are breaking into that you're not covering? Like the kids getting yanked out in Chicago that you're not covering. The blind guy getting pummeled that you're not covering. The 7 million people to 11 million people protests that you're not covering. New York Times, do fucking better. Like, that's the shit that we're... okay, the next president, gets to play renovation again. Whatever millionaire goes in there next. I don't give a fuck. Raise that thing to the ground. Is it historical? Yeah. Okay. I'm worried about the people in this country who are losing their farms. I'm worried about the people in this country who are losing their homes or can't even buy a home to begin with. That's what I'm fucking worried about. You want to hyper focus on the house of a rich man, historically rich man, right? that's getting renovated by a crook. Yeah, it almost expected it. It didn't even raise an eyebrow. Go to the missing people, the 1,200 missing people that we have. Focus on that shit. Go back to the Jeffrey folders. Focus the hell out of that. Okay, fucking East Wing, great. Sorry, never knew you. Okay, it does suck in a historical sense, but let's focus on some bigger shit. Focus on the corruption involved with that, and him paying himself our tax dollars. All of us, our tax dollars, paying himself for that. Just focus there. For all the other corruption, the pardon of the day for some corrupt guy doing illegal shit that has money that will now give him some. Right? Focus on all these fucking companies that won't lower their prices and are making profit over profit over profit, right? At our expense. Move on from the fucking East Wing.
So this is a nice little update for people, especially the MAGA, who claim that they are not fascists. Let's just reiterate what's been going on here. We said that if Donald Trump took power again, he was never going to leave office, and he was going to try to find some way to enforce an authoritarian agenda, like doing away with elections. Now, he's been repeating the stupid big lie that 2020 was rigged or stolen against him even before Biden took office. But even back in March, his election integrity chief was making claims that the president has the power to just declare a voting emergency and take power over state election laws. They said that because 2020 was obviously stolen, when it wasn't, and he lost several dozen court cases saying that it wasn't, and his top cybersecurity expert in the White House at the time said it wasn't, he's just continued to push that horseshit narrative. And now his corrupt FBI, according to him, is investigating it so it never happens again. Not that they think it will never be corrupt again, but they'll fix the fact that he will never lose again. And they want to make sure that they make sweeping changes to the elections and hammer down their authoritarian grip before the midterms. That's why one of the first steps in this plan that they recently accomplished was a MAGA former Republican election official taking control of Dominion voting. So now the fascist Republicans actually control the voting machines from 27 states. And now they're trying to get the conservative Supreme Court to overturn many parts of the Voting Rights Act. But now Trump's officials are saying we can take other steps without Congress and we can mandate that states do things. Trump said in August that he was going to sign an executive order to do away with mail-in ballots, even though many other countries use them, and the only reason he said they are fraudulent with absolutely no evidence is because Vladimir Putin told him so. One of the most corrupt authoritarian dictators in the world who has an iron grip over his people's voting process and conveniently still wins with 95% of the vote. He says we don't ever want this to happen again like it did in 2020. That means he doesn't ever want the Republicans to lose again. And another part in his plan about disabling the voting system is making people think it's illegitimate through conspiracy theories, much like the big lie itself, pushing widespread false narratives that voting machines have been rigged to favor Democrats. And all of this completely ignoring the blatant hypocrisy that Republicans totally believe that voting is fair when they win. If they lose, obviously it must have been fraudulent. But if they win, oh, the fraud magically never showed up. This is why they had bullshit movements like Stop the Steal, which was entirely based on bullshit fabricated conspiracy theories. So now while the Trump administration and their allies hire election conspiracy theorists with no actual election knowledge or expertise, the DHS now appears to be poised to become a primary amplifier of false election conspiracies, all with the attempt of trying to erode the public's confidence in the voting process so that after Trump loses or the Republicans fail miserably in the midterms, Trump can just conveniently call a national emergency and override the state's certification of votes. Because when Republicans go full fascist and they know they can't win, they just cheat by taking a big steamy shit all over the Constitution they pretend to care so much about. And all because Donald Trump knows that his approval rating is in the toilet, nobody likes him, nobody likes the Republicans, and they can't win in a fair fight.
With food stamps ending on November 1st for hundreds of thousands of families due to the government shutdown, a lot of people are likely going to turn to much more desperate means to feed themselves and their families. That's why I'm here to make one of those desperate means just a little bit safer and a little bit easier. Welcome to part 1 of a series I hoped I'd never have to make. how to safely dumpster dive for groceries. Now, before we go any further, I want to acknowledge, I know that not everyone would ever consider dumpster diving. I get that. I know that a lot of people think that it's icky, and probably a lot of people think that it's illegal. So let's address that first. First of all, dumpster diving is not illegal. In 1988, the Supreme Court ruled that once something has been put out for garbage collection, it is no longer the possession of that person, and it is available for public perusal and consumption. So unless your community has passed a local ordinance specifically prohibiting dumpster diving, you should be in the clear on that. As to whether it's icky or not, well, again, I know I'm not going to be able to convince everyone, but again, you need to keep in mind that all of this is coinciding with the end of the normal growing season for most Americans, which means growing their own food to replace what they can't get with food stamps isn't particularly a viable option for most people. And food banks in a lot of communities are already struggling to keep things on their shelves due to an increase in demand and a decrease in donations. So there absolutely are going to be a lot of people at the point of desperation where this becomes their only hope. I have been there before. For context, the overwhelming majority of food that I consumed through much of my 20s was dumpster dived. I started dumpster diving at grocery stores first out of necessity, but later on, I continued doing it by choice because I saw the sheer immense scale of food that gets wasted in this country, and I didn't want to be a part of the problem. In fact, I was so prolific at dumpster diving that I was able to not only keep myself fed, but also keep a lot of members of my community fed, or at least partially fed. So again, I understand this is not an option that's for everyone, but if it's for you, this series is here for you. I'm hoping that I can be a resource for Americans who find themselves turning to dumpster diving for groceries for the first time in their life. I also know that super long videos don't do particularly well on here, so I'm going to be splitting it up into several videos and posting them as a series starting later today. But I really need your help getting this first video in front of as many folks as possible. So if you could repost this video and engage with it in all of the ways possible, that would be so helpful. We're going to get through this together, y'all. It just may be rough for a little bit first. See you in the next video.
We have a serious critical thinking and media literacy problem in this country. And to illustrate what I'm talking about, take a look at this headline. Now, any rational person would look at this headline and say, why is he tearing down such a historical building, especially when he explicitly said he wasn't going to do that? So then you have reporters asking members of Congress what their thoughts on this are, and you have idiots like Josh Hawley saying this.
What about just uprooting this is an iconic building?
Well, I will just say this. I made this point yesterday, that I hear all of a sudden from my liberal friends that they're very concerned about our history. Really? These are the same people who tore down every statue they could get their hands on in the last 4 years. Christopher Columbus, Thomas Jefferson, Theodore Roosevelt. They didn't have any concern for history then. Now all of a sudden, like, the facade of the East Wing is iconic. Oh, give me a break.
The problem here now is that a lot of America would hear that and say, wow, Josh is making a really good point there. But he's not. If you actually apply a little bit of critical thinking and listen to the words he's saying, you realize it's just full of false equivalencies and he's leaving out very important information. Now, the first issue you're going to notice is that he's comparing memorials to bastions of racism and cruelty to an apolitical historic building that is widely recognized to house the most powerful political office in the world, which is in no way insignificant. So he's got Christopher Columbus statues. I don't think I need to get into why that guy sucks. Thomas Jefferson famously owned a lot of slaves and didn't treat them very well. And number three, well, what did Teddy Roosevelt do? This is the statue of Teddy Roosevelt he's talking about, and it was outside the Museum of Natural History in New York. Now, the problem with this statue wasn't that it was of Teddy Roosevelt, it was the fact that he was flanked on one side by an indigenous man and a black slave on the other side. And Teddy Roosevelt's great-grandson is quoted as saying, "The world does not need statues, relics of another age that reflect neither the values of the person they intend to honor, nor the values of equality and justice." So now that we've established that the left isn't trying to erase history, we're just trying to stop honoring the shitty parts of it. And his whole argument about, you guys didn't care about history then, it works both ways. You guys seem to care a whole lot about history then, but now you don't. It kind of seems like you guys only care about preserving history when it's something to do with white supremacy. Did you know that Norwegian countries have a significant part of their curriculum dedicated to developing critical thinking skills and media literacy? This article is from 2020. Why don't we have that? The obvious answer is so that we can be easily fooled. Question everything.